What's good, party people? This is Voodoo in the Woods. I'm According in the Woods, and he is former U of MMA champion Pius Ina Lobo, better known as Voodoo Maximus. And yes,
That's
we
right.
had a pretty filled up combat sports Saturday because we had both the Bellator 276, which we'll go in depth with. 273. Apparently, I missed that day on Sesame Street, but forgive me, folks. And the Royal Rumble, what it used to be when we were growing up, one of the big four pay-per-views. Now it's just like a whatever the fuck, right? I don't think anybody even cares anymore at this point, but some people do, and cool. You know, I'm not shitting on you for digging it, but I mean, it's a shit show. But I will say, rest in peace, Vicky Askew or Victoria Askew, the mother of one Vincent Kennedy McMahon, who passed away shortly before the Royal Rumble began. So our condolences go out to the McMahon family. And this is actually a year to the day after Vince's brother, Roderick McMahon, a millionaire in his own right, hailing out of Texas. He passed away. So it's kind of a crazy time for the McMahon family. So our condolences to them.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. The McMahons have sacrificed so much for us throughout the years. I mean, going to his father and now mom, Vince himself, putting his body on the line over and over and over. His daughter, body on the line. Even his wife, body on the line. Son jumping off the cage. They won't do. They will never ask you to do something they're not willing to do themselves. That's what I respect most about the McMahons. You know, they get down and dirty. So
Yeah.
shout out to the McMahons.
Yeah, you said you sacrifice yourself for the entertainment of the crowd, but they've also sacrificed many a talent too. So I'll do the flipping of the script too. Namely Owen Hart and a litany of people that, because of that
Oh, that's
insane
true. That's true.
schedule of the WWF, in the 80s and 90s and what have you. And then put away like an 8 ball in a corner pocket, a lot of the territories of the 50s, 60s, and 70s. So there's that. But again, still, heartfelt condolences going out to the McMahons during this difficult time. But we were going from one dynasty to the other because we have Bellator 273 taking place in Arizona, and we get started off on the prelims that was live and free for everyone on the YouTube Bellator page. But we saw Sullivan Colley, which I want to believe his name is Sully. Yep, it is. It actually is. So Sully Colley beat the big tuna Ben Parrish. And Ben Parrish was looking, after his knockout in his last appearance at Bellator, it was mentioned in the commentary that he was looking for a Bellator contract. Well, nobody told Sullivan Colley that, because the training partner of one Bellator heavyweight champion, Ryan Darth Bader, beat the ever-living tar out of the big fish, or the big tuna rather, in the very first round. Your thoughts on Sullivan Colley's performance here?
There's something to be said about those wrestlers, man. Mr. Sully went up in there, picked his shots. He did. He was seeking minimal damage, utilized wrestling to the best of his ability, and it paid dividends as he was able to get his opponent to the ground, keep him on the ground, control several dominant positions, go in for the kill with that ground and pound, and off with his head. Ben Parrish, nighty night. Sullivan moves on to 3-0, and it is what it is. Let's get it.
Yeah, and you know what's kind of crazy about this is we saw a contingent of both Ryan Bader's team, right, as well as Fedor's team, Fedor team. So they were up and down this card. So shout out to both teams, and and in the coaches themselves, and Bader and Fedor have a pretty storied history, with Bader KOing Fedor at the Forum in Inglewood a couple
Mhm.
years back, which we both were there in house to witness, which was, I mean, it felt like the earth, kind of moving. But yeah, man, it's this is a big win for Sullivan, and kind of, I think at times when there's a camp heavy or a gym heavy card, whether it be UFC, Bellator, or otherwise, when you have like, somebody in the main event, and then you have, a lot of their proteges, on the undercard, a lot of people give it flack, right? But this one, it turned out well, and this ended up being the very first finish in Bellator's history for 2022.
That's right. That's right. I mean, the kid Sully was quite efficient. He was efficient and effective. He nullified his opponent rather quickly. The way his approach was business wise. He there wasn't any wasted energy, and I like that. You know, so as as his career goes on, we will see just how much or just how deep his uh his bag of tricks really is. We'll see.
Yeah, absolutely. And tricks are for kids, but the youngin Sully taking the win. And your boy Bruce was saying hi, you're joining us over on Twitch. Glad to have you here. And the good sister Takia Pal saying, hi guys, how are you? I am here and I am watching the
Yeah,
game.
that's
Yes,
right.
there's a NFL big playoff, actually a pair of NFL playoff games here, but we definitely appreciate you guys kind of sticking with us. But speaking of sticking, man, the son of one Chris, the West Side Strangler Brennan, basically showing out to the umpteenth degree. Lucas, the Skywalker Brennan, beats Ben Lugo by arm triangle choke. And man, it was the Skywalker's night in advancing his professional record 6-0 for Brennan. And I mean, this was uh, I mean, Ben Lugo, right, going into this was a 9-fight veteran, and a tough customer. And Lucas Brennan just went in there and just asserted his dominance.
Yep, indeed he did. Sometimes, uh, mixed martial arts requires one to be a balanced fighter. In this particular case, Lucas Brennan was more versed in the grappling department than his opponent. He took advantage of his opponent, took his back, no, took his arm and neck, and was able to secure an arm triangle, finish him off in the first round. It was one of those slow pitch knocked out of the park. So there you go. Lucas Brennan moves on at 6-0.
Yeah, are you there saying that Bellator throws layups to people that they might have invested interest in? What? What?
I mean, we are on the same team, So it's
Speaking
like
of
Kobe and
teams,
Shaq.
oh
There
yeah,
you
you
go.
on my team. Yes, we are team Takia. I'm just saying.
Hey, it's like Kobe and Shaq. Kobe lays it up, Shaq slams it down. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, I
Bellator lays it up, and it's up to Lucas Brennan to slam it down.
I thought this was going away because in my head, not the championships that they won or whatever, but there
Hmm.
was a diss track that Shaq had made of Kobe, and it was show me how my, I don't know what it, cavity tastes, which doesn't age well because one of them is nearly departed. But yeah, that's that. But speaking of asses, um, the assets of Nikita Mikhailov
Hmm.
just rose. Right, this is another fighter from the Russian Federation and a protege of the great last emperor Fyodor Emelianenko, where
Hmm.
Nikita absolutely dominated Blaine Shutt. As Mauro Ronaldo said, Nikita shut out Shutt, which I thought was great.
Yeah, it was a pretty much exactly as we called it. We had an idea Nikita was going to be able to have excellent takedown defense, so keeps the fight on the feet. Nikita had better control of where the fight took place, even if he didn't get the KO or the ground and pound. He was on pace to winning by decision anyway, either split or unanimous. He was leading, but however, he was able to score a KO via ground and pound, and he moves on to 9-1.
Yeah, absolutely. And if anybody was kind of questioning, maybe Bellator throwing up layups or whatever. One thing about these Russians or Dagestanis, that whole kind of European bloc, these guys don't come to play, right?
Mm-mm.
I even believe I heard either Josh Thompson. Yeah, I want to say it was Josh Thompson, but possibly it could also be Mauro Ronaldo. Where like when these Dagestani fighters, and I kind of equate the Russian wrestlers, a part of this kind of attaché. Uh, the fact
Mm-hmm.
that if they lock hands on you, that's it. You're going on a
It's tough.
ride.
It's tough.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
this is no different, and I believe the thing was like, hey, if you get caught, and those fingers are locked, guess what? You're going straight a first class ticket to Dagestani Airlines, man. All expense paid trip. So and again, I think that was a nice verbal gem. And again, Bellator. We were kind of talking off air, Voodoo and and it was just like, I'm so glad that Bellator is back. To me, whether it be the live show, fortunate enough to be in attendance, like I mean, Voodoo and I have been countless times, or watching at home. The viewing experience is amazing. The crowd is electric, but the commentary team, and I will even date it back to Jimmy Smith, who's called the Royal Rumble last night, which was kind of wild. But Jimmy Smith and Sean Wheelock to now this incarnation of Mauro Ronaldo, Big John McCarthy, Josh Thompson, and man, I can't remember her name, but the gal that's on the panel with Josh Thompson, uh, she's great. I mean, the commentary team at Bellator is just absolutely phenomenal, and I just dig it. Hell, even Michael C. Williams, when people are talking about great ring announcers, they'll bring up Mike Kendall of LFA. They'll bring up the gentleman in one championship before his Rowdy Energy. Um, you know, BKFC has Jesus Christ, why am I blanking? Oh, Jeff Houston, right, who does wrestling as well, and obviously the great Bruce Buffer, yeah, along with his brother
Mhm,
Michael,
mhm.
right? And so legendary, the Lennons, Jimmy Lennon Sr. and Jimmy Lennon Jr. But Michael C. Williams, man, that guy has seen it all. When they used to put the Bellator cage in the middle of the Fremont Street Experience in downtown Las Vegas, to right now to where they're at with Viacom and Showtime. This guy has seen every incarnation of Bellator, and I just for all the kind of like changes in terms of the roster, I'm glad that Michael C. Williams calls Bellator home.
Most definitely, most definitely. It's a
Yeah.
perfect fit, man. Like that OJ glove.
Ooh,
Perfect fit.
Jesus Christ. Oh, R.I.P. Nicole Simpson Brown or Nicole Brown. There you go. I'm not gonna
Brown.
do
Yeah.
The Simpson. All things considered, that's bad taste and Ronald Goldman, and also Kato Kalin's 15 minutes of fame. That was over 15 minutes
Right.
after. But yeah, that's it. But speaking of 15 minutes of fame and cashing in on maybe your name, Dwayne the Rock Johnson, not the one you think of, not the one whose footwear is the exclusive footwear partner of the UFC, but another gent. He fell to 6-3. It's kind of wild because they were kind of like, I don't want to say they were. dogging Johnson, but it wasn't until the third round did Big John finally admit, like, oh, like, Dwayne Johnson took this fight on short notice and whatever. Dalton Rasta was, preparing for somebody else and everything and giving the propers to both gentlemen. But before that, it was just like, yep, this is, it was predetermined outcome that The Rock was going to lose to Dalton Rasta. And again, not that Rock, another one. But yeah, man, this one was cool. And, despite the fact that you can make all of the concessions that you can about it being a short notice fight, this went all the way to the decision. So I definitely want to give a huge, even in a losing effort, a huge shout out to Dwayne The Rock Johnson, because he stuck in there right into the bitter end.
Yes, he did. Yes, he did. And Dwayne was not the favorite to win, and on top of that, he's coming in on short notice. However, he did go in there on short notice, and he did perform. He wasn't finished, which is huge. Yes, he was out wrestled by Rasta. He was out wrestled, but he wasn't manhandled, and that's a victory in its own. So, shout out to Dwayne, but Dalton Rasta wins on this very day by unanimous decision. He goes on at 6-0 to greener pastures.
1000%. And speaking of pastures, this one is kind of this is bittersweet because we're going to have the first of two consecutive former Bellator champions taking an L and being finished. But we have the one and only Saad Awad getting KO'd by Chris Gonzalez. This one is rough because Saad Awad, again, as I mentioned, former Bellator world champion, and he's a guy who, fights out of Rancho Cucamonga. He's a SoCal guy, and every interaction that I've had with him has been absolutely just couldn't be a better dude. But it's wild. MMA, just because you're a good dude doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to end up pay dirt. Chris Gonzalez, 36 seconds. That's all it took for him to finish a former Bellator world champion, which you got to think coming out of this, a 7-1 record. He's got his eye and has a very good case on the 155-pound title in Bellator, assuming they don't do a Grand Prix first.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. I'm looking forward to this Grand Prix. By the way, I mean, I don't know why the UFC don't engage in such activities. These tournaments will get things going. Even if you don't have your champion is not ready, instead of interim, whatever, let these contenders fight each other, and the last one that remains on top of the pyramid, by then the champion should be ready to go, and then boom, there you go. And if they do, and if the champion is not ready, then that person should be the interim champion, the winner of that tournament, not two people that was just chosen. You know what I'm saying? You feel what I'm saying?
No, absolutely. And it's how do you slice an orange, right? Do you put it skin on and cut it into 4s or 8s or what have you, or do you peel it and manually take apart each appendage of the orange, right? So with that all being said, it's every time that I don't want to say every time that Bellator has done a tournament, because that is something completely indicative of Bellator's origins, right? Where they did tournaments, they didn't, almost like PFL. PFL has almost adopted the old school Bellator Bjorn Rebney type of tournament, or UFC, if you're the early days of the UFC. But the catch 22 is when King Mo coming off of Strikeforce, right, and a world champion of Strikeforce and whatever, and they put him in the tournament thinking he's gonna win and everything like that, and they had money in him winning, and he gets kicked. I mean, spinning back fist by God, I forgot the gentleman's name. He's out of Long Beach too. The punk He's like
Yeah, I remember you talking
yeah,
about. I
yeah.
remember him.
Um, so with that all being said, it doesn't always work, and not it's very hard to kind of determine marketing monies, and allocating it for it, because again, we even seen it in the UFC where a particular champion, they were banking on Ronda coming back and becoming dominant and what have you, and she gets waylaid by Amanda Nunes, right? So when you get a tournament, you're throwing everything up in the air. Hell,
Hmm.
if you want to use a WWF reference, the Brawl for All, that was supposed to make sure that, hey, Doctor, that's Steve Williams, one of the best NCAA wrestlers to transition over to pro wrestling, and hey, if
Hmm.
the MMA was lucrative financially, 20 years before it ended up becoming, the 70s and 80s, well, you would see Dr. Death Steve Williams probably floating between both, right? Or wherever the money went. He was kind of a mercenary. But with that all being said, he gets KO'd in the first round and tears ligaments in his leg and everything like that. So in that, like, in terms of competition, it like, you can make a plausible theory. You put all the best guys or girls in a tournament per divisions, and we'll see who comes out on top. But then if you have
Hmm.
a bracket here and a bracket here, and you want two guys or competitors of that bracket face each other, that might not happen because one, you can't train your chin, and they get an errant blow or whatever, and guess what? Everything is all up in the air, and then that I think breeds discontent within the promotion, because, like, for the fighter, like, it's never been like, oh, you giving me this opportunity, right? And it hit Bader. It's just like, you guys, you Bellator, you UFC, you organization were against me, and I'm going to show you that I am the one, and what have you. So it breeds discontent, and also we're in a way and environment where you have athletic commissions. You're doing that in the, almost like Fedor fights, right? You're doing that either in Russia or a native casino here in North America, because there's no way that any commission in the contiguous US kind of signing off on that.
Yeah.
But I mean, do I like tournaments? Fuck yes, I like them. But I can see both sides.
Yeah, those are the days, the tournament days, especially in the same day. Get it
Yeah,
over with. Those are the days. These new fans, they don't know what they've missed. The
no,
real, the
100%.
realness.
100%. And it's, again, it all depends, right? What type of MMA do you like to watch, and what have you. And it's a way to kind of test the mettle of a
Hmm.
particular fighter's fighting spirit, coming out of one, two, three fights to claim your championship. And it makes that championship make have a little bit more prestige than it would otherwise, and it sure as hell better than an interim title. So there's that. Anything is better than an interim title in my estimation. I know, but also that is a marketing ploy. In some markets where you advertise a champion, and then the champion gets injured or doesn't want to fight or whatever, so you throw up an interim title, but it dilutes all of this. I think
Hmm.
a tournament would probably add to the prestige versus a
Exactly. Exactly.
a interim title. But again, that's just me. I am not in a position where I have to make pull the strings or make it happen. So, but you can make a case either way.
Interesting. You said being in a position to pull the strings or make it happen because Chris Gonzalez, he pulled the string and made it happen in 36 seconds as he
36
knocks out
seconds.
Saad Awad.
Yeah.
36 seconds. The timing was there, man. The timing was there. He didn't waste any time. He closed the distance rather quickly. Hit him with that beautiful cross. I mean, with that head kick,
Yep.
and that was that.
It's all she wrote. It's all she
They
wrote.
all
But
get caught.
yeah, unfortunately, especially if you're a certain ex-president that didn't have sexual relations with that person, Miss Lewinsky. That was a
With that
horrible.
woman.
Yeah, with that woman. Jesus, that was a horrible Billy Bob impression. I call him Billy Bob, but former President Clinton. In case you didn't know,
Hmm.
that's a dated reference. But speaking of not so much dated references, but I mentioned that this is, Sadawad and Chris Gonzalez is the first of two consecutive former Bellator World Championships getting
Hmm.
KO'd in their respective fights to young upstarts. But Enrique Barrazola beats Darren the Wolf Caldwell in the third round.
Yep.
This is a KO slash ground and pound win. And again, this is rough. This is really rough because you're looking at guys and girls, right? That have been the cornerstones of Bellator, especially in terms of championships. These are people that were drawing money, or viewership rather, in the times of Bellator on MTV2, Bellator on Spike TV, right? You could put Asada Wad or Darion Caldwell on the marquee, and you're going to garner some eyeballs, to the product, and
Yep.
um, it's just it's almost like they're cannon fodder for these now young upstarts, and of course, flipping it on its head, right? Because there were veterans in the respective careers of Asada Wad and Darion Caldwell, and a litany of others that were basically put a lamb to the slaughter type position, so they could rise up to championship level performances, which they have done in their career. But it's still, if you're longtime fans, this one, in the words of Rod Stewart and or Sheryl Crow's remake of it, but the first cut is the deepest. And
Mm.
this is a hell of a cut to long term fans of Bellator MMA.
That's right. That's right. Couldn't have said it better myself. But as we move on into the next round, we have Enrique Barrazola versus Darren Caldwell. This one was a little interesting for me. Darren, I was banking on seeing some dynamic striking, but it seems the complete style of Enrique Barzola was going to pay dividends as he was able to control more of where the fight took place. Um, it was an even match, I would say. It was an even match, but Enrique was slightly better, just a little bit, and it showed on the judges' scorecard as they unanimously voted for Enrique Barzola. I mean, of course, he did get the ground and pound, but even if he didn't get the ground and pound KO, he was on his way to winning the match regardless. So, therefore, Enrique, well put together. Let's keep grinding.
Yeah, and it's a shame. At least as it stands here, it doesn't look like Bellator gives the fight bonuses. Um, which, I mean, this one would definitely be in contention of a fight of the night, or a performance of the night rather. And who's to say
Agreed.
that doesn't happen with Bellator? They just don't announce it and what have you. But it's still a very big name over a name fighter for Enrique Barzola. So the future is really, really, really bright for Barzola. So I can't wait.
Me too.
Now,
Me too. Me too.
now speaking of can't wait and can't miss, Sabah Homasi, a 16-10, proving that old school is cool. He's a veteran of almost 10 fights over his opponent, Jaleel Willis of the night. But I mean, first round, arm triangle choke, kind of indicative of the one that Lucas Brennan hit on Ben Lugo earlier in the night.
Hmm.
And
Yeah.
that's all she wrote. That's all she wrote. First round arm triangle for Sabah Homasi, and with a 16-10 record, man. I mean, where do you for the matchmakers of Bellator? Where do you put this guy? Is he? Does the Sleeky Sheik, get into title contention with this win and what have you? He's beaten guys like, Bobby Volker and Curtis Melinder, right? Micah Terrell.
Hmm. Hmm.
But, when it gets to the top tier, the Paul Simtex Dailies and the Andre Korskovs, which, crazy enough, that was his last two fights and two losses before the win over Jaleel Willis. But where do you put a guy who's a tenured veteran like that? Do you Do you give him a title shot? Do you not? And what equates for it? I'm not sure.
I mean, that's when the fighter himself becomes the catalyst for his own success.
Hmm.
Um, what are you doing in addition to what the company is trying to do for you? What are you doing for yourself? What is your social media like? Are you putting the word out there of yourself? Are you talking yourself up? Are you advocating for yourself, seeking this title match or whatnot? What is it that you're doing? Are you just sitting around waiting for them to give you an opportunity, or are you trying to create an opportunity for yourself? I mean, a person like this at 16-10, I mean, on triangle like he did on this very night. I mean, why not? Why not give him a chance at welterweight? Why not? Why not? He's shown to have experience and he's learned. He's learned. He's had 10 long learning sessions and 16 wins. He's still in the positive side of things. So it seems he's got enough experience to challenge for the title. So why not?
Yeah,
Why not?
absolutely. He's fought everywhere. Going back to Titan FC, he was on the Ultimate Fighter, American Top Team versus the Black Zillions when they ran that
Mhm.
season, and had a career in the UFC, and then now signing with Bellator in 2019, right before the pandemic. This is a guy with tons of experience and some cachet amongst the hardcore MMA fan base. So this is something that could cash in, but just like you said, it's where you're putting in your social media presence and what have you
Mhm.
that could catapult you into the places that you may want to be. And with his record, he's got probably more fights behind him than he has ahead of him, so you want to make sure
Mhm.
that they're as lucrative as feasibly possible.
That's right, man. That's right. That's
Yep.
right.
And Shaman Steve said, "Good afternoon, gentlemen. Good afternoon, Shaman Steve, the good brother.
What's up, Shaman
uh
Steve?
Hashtag brother me softly. Glad to have you here
Yeah.
with us." But speaking of
Yeah.
here with us, was the eye poke of Aiden Lee over Henry Corrales. This earning Corrales the victory. And I'm sure kind of every interaction with Henry Corrales has been great, and he has the warrior spirit, the fighting spirit. This is not the way that he wants to earn a win, but unfortunately, that's the way the cookie crumbles. This wasn't as egregious as the Funk Master Aljamain Sterling, but an unintentional eye poke. That's rough. I mean, it wasn't as egregious as like a John Jones eye poke, where it almost seems like that was part of John Jones' strategy, is just train eye pokes in the way that what's his name, Chris Weidman, or as I like to call Weidman, trained check kicks for his fights with Anderson Silva. So again, Henry Corrales picking up the win in this one, but not without any controversy.
Yeah. This was actually a very good fight. Aiden Lee having all the height and reach advantage seemed to be uh, um, in the position to win the standing game. I mean, his limbs are very long, so therefore, things look well. He's English, that means his boxing is gonna be crisp, right? More than anything, his boxing is gonna be crisp. But he's in there against Henry Corrales. Corrales known to be an assassin, a smasher of men, um, tough as nails, as tough as they come. Bellator veteran, been there for quite some time, effective as hell. You're gonna have to kill him to get him out of there. But Aiden didn't know that. So Aiden goes in there in the first round. He saw just how deep the rabbit hole goes. Second round, he realizes the sun is hot. And then third round, he was just about to get fumigated when, by mistake, Mr. Corrales attempted to push his face away, but a finger uh, went in Mr. Aiden Lee's eyes. Now, I am not saying the young man is lying, but it seems to me that he tried to steal one. Um, this is just my perspective, what I see. I am not him. I don't know what's going on inside of him, but it seems to me that he realized that he was losing a match or was going to lose the match. Yes, his eyes were poked, but I do believe that uh, he tried to steal the match with an injury. But Corrales had done so much damage that when it went to the scorecard, Corrales won. So therefore, there you go.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, Henry Corrales, that's not a guy that I'm gonna bet against. So again, I'm not at all crapping on this victory, but could it have happened better? Maybe, and when these unfortunate occurrences happen, there's going to be talk and chatter, a smattering of whispering on the social media about this is bullshit. This is bullshit. You know,
Hey, but I tell you what. If young Aiden Lee wants some, Corrales will have no problem but to give him more. I mean, he's ready. He's that type of dude. So if Aiden Lee really, if he's really about that life, just ask Scott Coker to set up the next match, and we can run it back. You might not make it to the third this time.
yeah, that's the catch-22 of that. Make your words soft and sweet just in case you have to eat them later.
You know what I'm
And
saying?
yeah, so there's that. But we are at the co-main event of the evening. We have former UFC and WEC champion Benson Smooth Henderson besting one Islam Mamedov. And this one was
Hmm?
wild because this is something that, I mean, it was a must win for Benson Anderson, who has gone essentially 0-3 in his last outing, so losing to Michael Chandler, Jason Jackson, and Brent Primus. Brent Primus and Michael Chandler, obviously former champions themselves, so he hasn't won since September 29th September 27th in 2019, which was a unanimous decision over Miles Fury Jury. And just kind of a side note about Miles Jury, if you are a fighter or just somebody that wants to learn some financial planning, Miles Jury's YouTube page, I definitely want to refer you to that. Because if you're a fighter, and he breaks down his pay percentage and what have you, and what he was told it was based around, and everything like that, and where he's basically played stocks or real estate, and he's very heavily interested and invested in the Florida real estate market, which where he resides. So just shout out to Miles Jury. I think that would be an apropos time to give him his propers, but also big propers to Benson Henderson, because again, after 0-3, mind you, two of them, right, in Bet Primus as well, as Michael Chandler. And remember, Primus beat Chandler in Madison Square Garden, where Chandler had a Anderson Silva-esque leg injury, right, and fell
Hmm.
back on it. Actually, it was more Conor McGregor leg injury, and Primus won the title. But still, two Bellator world champions, former world champions at the time that Benson steps in there with him. And actually they might have still been champion, because they were mentioning on the commentary that Benson Henderson has fought Bellator championships, but it's eluded him in every kind of campaign that he makes towards that title. And he's won a title everywhere he's been, again, WEC and UFC included.
Hmm.
Um,
Hmm.
but yeah, so this one, it was a split decision. It wasn't as dominant in front of the judges as one would like, but I do agree with the judging and scoring it a split decision, because there was a slick transition from Benson Henderson that Bellator didn't have any problems putting on all of their social medias, and he was like, this is where Benson Henderson puts the smooth transition. So I thought that was kind of nice. But your thoughts, Voodoo?
Um, Smooth, man, smooth, smooth. You don't go in there against a Dagestani and perform that well. He was not expected to. I mean, being his age, I mean, I'm not talking about his chronological age. I'm talking about the miles that he's put on his body. You know, I mean, at what, 40 fights, I believe. Yeah, 40 fights.
Mm-hmm.
40 fights. 40 professional fights. We're not counting the amateur fight. 40 professional fights in Benson Henderson's career that goes back to WEC, like my man was just saying.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, going in there against Islam Mamedov coming in with a 19 fight win streak. He comes in there against this old veteran. You know what I'm saying? And then they'll tell you, your teachers and your coaches will tell you in practice that practice makes perfect. Practice makes perfect. Benson Anderson, the years and years of drilling and training paid dividends in this particular match because he wasn't the strongest in the match. He wasn't the strongest. He wasn't the best wrestler, but the skill, understanding of when to transition, that was the key to victory in this match. He was never absolutely dominated. He was held, but not dominated. When it came to Islam going to work and punching him out, he creates holes in which Benson Henderson was able to wiggle out of and change the situation. And he did this for 15 minutes. It was a beautiful match. I enjoyed it thoroughly. I'm not mad at the Benson Henderson split decision win at all.
No, not at all. And again, I truly and honestly believe that Benson Henderson finds himself in a similar position as Glover Teixeira, right, where he's
Mm-hmm.
a long-term veteran, and there's a lot of miles. So I think that
Mm-hmm.
once he gets to that echelon that he's set for himself of claiming a Bellator title, he might hang it up. And not to say that he wouldn't be a part of the MMA lab and helping train the next generation of people there. But in terms of his active in-ring career, they were basically telling how Benson Henderson has 4 kids. His wife Maria
Mm-hmm.
Henderson was victorious at LFA not too long ago. And maybe he does almost like a Gilbert Melendez, and supports his wife in Bellator, which, crazy enough, Carrie Ann Melendez is a Bellator fighter in her own right. So maybe they go that route, and a whole slew of fighters that are coming up under the auspices of the MMA lab. Um, I believe Little Monster is there, right? Like MMA lab at Eddie Shaw. I want to say,
Possibly,
yeah,
possibly.
yeah. Or maybe Eddie Shaw's with Fight Ready. I don't know. The Arizona fight scene kind of eludes me, so I'm sorry if I'm misspeaking. But the Arizona fight scene, much like every other fight scene in the world, has become a powerhouse. You don't have to just go to
Mm-hmm.
Southern California or South Florida
Mm-hmm.
or the Eastern Bloc of Europe to become a champion. In the instance of Ryan Bader, a little monster Vanessa Demopoulos,
Mm-hmm.
Benson Henderson. These are all Arizona-based fighters. Henry Cejudo, who could forget?
Mm-hmm.
Pitbull, in his fight with AJ McKee. Also
Mm-hmm.
Davidson Federato, right? Arizona
Yep. Yep.
claiming themselves championships in the lower divisions of every MMA promotion in the world, seemingly. So shout out to Arizona's mixed martial arts scene. You know,
That's right. That's right. It's nature. It's nature that the rulers change, so to speak. At one point, it was ATT, 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 Jackson and Winkle, Winkle, Twinkle, whatever. Everyone gets their turn. TriStar, TriStar, this and that, TriStar. Lions Den, this and that, Lions Den. Everyone will get their turn on top. It is what it is. As long as folks are still going out there and they're training hard and becoming their best self, then the gym will always get recognition. So congratulations to the Arizona folks. It's your time to shine. It's your time to shine. You are deserving.
No, 1,000%. And giving us a bit of an update, Stephanie Black over on YouTube saying, "Swoop, go San Fran." Yeah, and again, not
Hey,
to
it's Raiders for life. Raiders for life.
I was telling Voodoo on the off ear, I don't watch much football, but when I do, and when I load up the newest Madden video game, I'm stacking up the Niners. And this is not like, oh, Niners over everybody or whatever. I just was born in San Francisco, spent the first 8 years of my life there, and I was, I was growing up around the time of two back-to-back quarterbacks. We kind of invented, the Troy Aikman and Tony Romo, the Brett Favre and Aaron Rodgers, or what's his face, Drew Bledsoe into Tom Brady, right? That nice little baton handoff from one Hall of Fame quarterback to another, and what have you. So I was, living in San Francisco around the time that the Niners were winning everything. So it's cool that they're doing well, So and Raider killer. I have a cousin, actually, the CEO of Purple Ghosts, which I happen to be wearing a Ghost in Roses shirt. But my cousin is a diehard Raiders fan, which is kind of crazy because grew up in South Bend, Indiana, but rocks the Raiders. Okay, so every time I, every time it's his birthday or anything or whatever, I just send him Raiders stuff, and I told him, I was like, until you tell me what else you like, you're just going to get Raiders stuff. And it's going to kill me because I still don't acknowledge Jerry Rice in his greatness because he over the Raiders. Yeah, the Raiders, whatever.
Jerry Rice was something special.
Until he joined the Raiders.
Even at his peak, Jerry Rice at his peak cannot step to Randy Moss. I'm sorry. Jerry Rice was great, but I believe if Randy Moss played in the era of Jerry Rice, there would have been no Jerry Rice. If they played at the same time, in their prime, at the same time, there would have been no Jerry Rice. Because Randy Moss steps up to challenges. You know what I mean? And he would have jumped out of the arena, the stadium, trying to catch a touchdown.
Yeah, and I acknowledge Randy Moss in this particular scenario because he went with the Raiders, and then obviously a career in Minnesota first, cutting his teeth there in the NFL, but going to the Raiders and then floating over to the Niners. Like, I can do that. Like, you're like, oh, I've seen the errors of my ways. I know that the many zeros that the Raiders had offered me, the Davis family had offered me, and what have you, and I know the better of my ways, and now I'm becoming a Niner. I acknowledge that versus you leaving the Niners and floating over to the Raiders and what have you. That's just how I roll, So, but speaking of rolling, we are at the main event of the evening, the unification of the Bellator interim heavyweight title and the reigning Bellator heavyweight champion in Ryan Darth Bader. Ryan Darth Bader obviously winning the previously holding the Bellator light heavyweight championship, Grand Prix championship, as well as the heavyweight. And a lot of people were like, oh, this is a Fedor guy. Valentin Moldavsky, he's a scary cat with a near perfect record, 11-1 going into this. But that was no match for the Arizona now kind of raised Ryan Bader, who advances into 29-7, and quite possibly facing one of the scariest guys. Now, he's fought scarier guys before, obviously, in look no further than Fedor Emelianenko, right? And KO'd him, right? And it looks like, holy smokes, if this, they're saying there could be an let's go. I want that fight. Oh, woo, buddy. Oh, I literally got goosebumps. Like, woo, Czech Congo? Czech Congo and Bader, sign me up. And you know the Parisian scene, they just barely over the pandemic, gave the green light
Open.
to MMA. So guess what? All that Canelo horse meat, all that fucking, supplements, illicit supplements. Oh, bring that shit. Bring
Let's
that shit
go.
to Paris. You're gonna get like a fucking TRT myostatin inhibited. These things are gonna look like fucking like I don't know, like action figures coming at each other. Sign me up. But again, you're not putting the wagon in front of the horse. Again, Bader. Undefeated. I mean, I'm not undefeated, but a unanimous decision over a tough wrestler, somebody who hails out of Fedor's camp, and who is a very, very stealth and astute wrestler in his own right. This one's great. Also, Nia Lynn saying, "Huh."
What up, Nina? One eye Nina.
There you go. There you go. But your thoughts on this heavyweight unification belt for Bellator?
Hey, I have to say, I have never seen Ryan Bader perform better than he did last night. There was a stiff competition in front of him in Valentin Moldavsky, the Russian young man, young, strong judoka, excellent judo. Um, um, his clinch game is very, very good, very, very good. The way he operates, he brings the pressure, puts you on the fence, and he pretty much presses against you, restricting your breathing as he knees your thighs and or whatnot. But Ryan Bader, being an excellent college wrestler that he was able to channel that wrestler's heart, that indomitable spirit. First of all, Ryan Bader has very good cardio, which showed in the fourth and fifth round. Um, Going into the fifth, it was 50-50. Ryan Bader and his opponent went to their mutual corners. They got their 1 minute break and then they brought it back. Bader was more active. Bader, having more experience at 29-7, realized that there's a possibility that this fight is split even, and he has to look busy for the judges. And he did exactly that. When he was pressed against the fence, opponent going for a double leg, trying to suck him off the fence, Bader went to work utilizing the elbow strikes and rabbit punches. When he was taken down to the ground, he got back up. He never left a position in which his opponent could dominate him, especially in that fifth round. The fight IQ was appropriate for this match. Shout out to Ryan Bader. Like I said, I've never seen him perform this well ever. Yes, I've seen him knock people out, but there's something different about going 25 minutes with another human being. I've never done it, but what I have done, I know how hard it is. Not to talk about tacking on 10 extra minutes on top of that. Bader proved himself to be a real world champion on this very night, and kudos to him. Now he's going to be going up against a Frenchman, Czech Congo. I truly believe this would be an easy fight for Ryan Bader. I do not feel Czech Congo has the skills to defend against Ryan Bader's assault. If Ryan Bader can watch out for those uppercuts and possible knees, I say he controls the match and he wins by unanimous decision.
Yeah, I know. And actually, before I get to my comment, Shaman Steve says, "Remember when we saw Bader clip
Yeah.
Fedor at the forum? Looking forward to the Congo fight." Yeah, I
Oh, yeah.
was there too, and it was the wildest thing. It was literally I was posting Fedor's walkout because I mean, if you see a Fedor walkout, that is almost like the Undertaker, right?
Yeah.
There's a change in the air that
Yeah.
happens, right? And that Russian almost the Russian equivalent of the Benedictine month is like, whoa, 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 like I don't know what the fuck was going on, but
That's the
there's
last emperor, man. The last
yeah,
emperor from Russia. The
yeah,
very last.
no, 100%, you know. And then I was posting the walkout, and then I look up and I look over at Ryan Lilly with Fader fucking spread eagle, and Bader just fucking going crazy, and I was like, what the fuck, just posting the fucking walkout. That's
Yeah.
how quickly
Yeah.
Bader finished Fedor. And, you know, I'm just saying. And in terms of Ryan Bader and Czech Congo, this is actually a rematch of their Bellator 226 contest that was essentially levied a no contest because there was an eye poke from the ground. Uh, you know, so this is actually a rematch. But in terms of Bader's credentials, this is somebody that is even right now, right as he's still currently champion. How can you tell me that this is not a Hall of Fame career? You know, fought in Mexico, fought King of the Cage, fought in Nevada,
Stop it.
fought in Arizona, fought in Cayman Islands, right? Starting off his career in 2007, right? Came onto the Ultimate Fighter season 8, beat Kyle Kingsbury, Filthy Tom Lawler, right? Uh, beat Vinny Magalhaes in the Ultimate Fighter finale, right? He's an Ultimate Fighter champion. Beat Keith, the Dean of Mean Chardy, Antonio Jorgero Nogera, right? That in itself, Pride champion, you know, one half of the Noguera brothers, been in there with John Jones, Tito Ortiz, beat Quinton Rampage Jackson, beat Lyoto Machida twice, beat actually, he's 1-1 with Lyoto Machida in UFC on Fox 4. Lost, got KO'd by Machida, but takes that back in Bellator and beats Lyoto Machida way back in. Actually, that was last year in April. That was April of 2021 as we're recording this, right? Been in there with Vladimir Matusenko, Glover Teixeira, Rafael Cavalcante, OSP, All Vincent Brew, Phil Davis,
Mhm.
Rashad Evans, Anthony Johnson, Ilir Latifi, ran it back with Noguera, ran it back with Phil Davis, King Mo, Muhammad Law, Linton Vassell, Fedor, and Matt Mitrione. That
Mhm.
is and then even going into Submission Underground, Chael Sonnen and Submission Underground. A shout out to Heather Standling, the matchmaker behind Submission Underground. But basically beat in Submission Underground 19 Anthony Rumble Johnson, but
Mhm.
lost to Mason Fowler. Mason Fowler, one of the top jiu-jitsu practitioners this side of your mom. Wow, that was not meant in a diss. That was supposed to be funny, but I'm sorry to anybody's mom who might be offended. But again, beating Lyoto Machida, losing to Corey Anderson, but coming back after that Corey Anderson loss, that was a part of the light heavyweight tournament and defending his heavyweight title successfully against Valentin Moldavsky. Again, this is, is there a better record, right? Is there a better list of opponents that would qualify or quantify a Hall of Fame worthy career than what I just bespoke of Ryan Bader?
I mean, he's been in there with the very best ever.
Yeah.
Yeah. He definitely is an accomplished man. Winner of the Ultimate Fighter. Now he's in the Bellator. You know, former double champ. I mean, you know, he's reached his goal of becoming champion. Now, let's just stack them ends, stack that money so high that we don't have to worry. You know, I'm sure he looks like a smart man. I'm sure he's diverted money into different portfolios and making his money work for him. Sky's the limit. Now he's 2 up on Fyodor Emelianenko. Fyodor himself was smashed. Now his protege smashed. Let's see what will they come with next. We shall see.
No, 100%. And we saw, Alpha Male versus Dominic Cruz, where they basically, literally a fighter factory up against a particular dominant champion. Yeah, again, to me, and you can't tell me, oh, Bellator isn't as great or what have you. I'm not even entertaining that, because every promotion in the world right now has, world class talent. Even in the amateurs, right? These kids today, Voodoo, who trains a lot of the youth in your region, in martial arts, you see it on a day to day basis, right? So you're seeing not the practitioners of just one specific discipline, but kids literally, when they start walking, they're training in MMA. They're training
Right.
MMA, all right, with a mix of jiu-jitsu and everything like that. So it's just crazy. And during this time, Ryan Bader has reigned supreme. And you said 2 champions. Actually, when you add the Grand Prix, it's actually 3. That's Bader 3 belts,
That's
right?
right. That's
Grand
right.
Prix, heavyweight, light heavyweight.
That's
And that is a accomplishment that no one can take away from him. And again, anybody that like, well, he didn't win a UFC title, whatever. Well, he's been in there in UFC title fights, and he's bested a lot of UFC champions in one phase of his and their career, one way or another. So again, to me, Bader is one of the greatest, and in my mind, I'm on like, oh, what does Francis Ngannou versus Ryan Bader look like? What does Brandon Vera, a heavyweight champion over in one, versus Bader look like? There's so many super fights that I'm thinking of. Look at all the Russians over there in PFL. Jesus Christ, and Bader, picking himself up $1 million and another title and another promotion. Like it's wild. It's so wild what could happen. And I just think that I'm not, again, trying not to put the wagon in front of the horse and whatever, because yes, you might say that Czech Congo might not present too much of a threat, but again, those uppercuts of Czech Congo are legendary. So that's a tough deal. But looking beyond Czech Congo, and I hate to do that, no disrespect to Czech Congo, but when we look past that, how much does Ryan Bader want to give back or what have you, and how many fights does he have left on his Bellator contract? I don't see him going back to the UFC anytime soon. It was pretty acrimonious, the breakdown and him going over to Bellator. So I don't think that's a bridge that could be crossed again. But never say never. We've seen so many people come back. But yeah, Bader, Hall of Famer. I love it.
Yeah, Bader has no business going back to the UFC, man. They don't have anything for him, even the title. The title will never be his. For him to go back to the UFC, he's gonna require a certain amount of money that I don't believe they will want to pay him.
Yep.
Which is why he is the Bellator brand. Stick with Bellator. The
Yep.
UFC ain't gonna pay you what you want.
Right.
They're just not gonna do it. Bader's good, but he's not polarizing. He's not polarizing good. What sells most in the UFC, besides your actual physical skill, is the how do you say? You have to be animated, so to speak. And if you don't have that ability, to tell a story, if you cannot tell a story with your voice, then you're not going to get that kind of money that you think you deserve. Even though your fighting skill deserves it, there's a couple of things still missing. And, but where Bader's at right now, those things aren't necessary.
Right.
The system there is slightly different. And it's just custom built for him to shine. So I say he stays in Bellator.
Absolutely. And one other kind of asterisk. Bader's a hell of a fucking commentator for Bellator.
Mm-hmm.
Anytime he's not fighting, he's damn good.
Mm-hmm.
Him and Josh Thompson, almost have the synergy of Josh Thompson and Big John McCarthy. But again, Big John McCarthy and Josh Thompson, they have a podcast together. Bader doesn't have a podcast with those two.
Mm-hmm.
He works seamlessly with all of that. And again, I can't remember the gal who sits on the Bellator panel, but she is fucking great. She, and the interplay between Josh Thompson and her on the panel was just fucking fun. Especially in the that instance of Lucas Brennan, right? Because Chris Brennan and Josh Thompson were supposed to fight, didn't happen, and whatever. And she called his ass old. Like, does that make you feel old? Like, like you're calling the fight of the guy that you were supposed to fight son's fucking fight. And it was like, I didn't feel old until you told me right now. And then she was all like, well, my job is done. I'm out. And I was just like, that is so good. Again, if you were kind of on the fence and you were just watching on YouTube and you're on the fence of maybe you're making a $15 subscription here in the United States for Showtime to watch this fight, to me, that would have sold it. Her and Josh Thompson, and I gotta get her name, but she's great. She's fucking great. There's so many, and I love the fact that, whether it be women's MMA, jiu-jitsu, what have you, but even into the commentary desk where you have her, Lauren Sanko, Karen Bryant, Megan O'Leary. They are some of the greatest broadcasters to ever grace combat sports, and we have them. They could. I mean, look at even Megan O'Leary, who does NFL stuff too. So at this time, while we have it, Julie Kensey in Invicta, they're so great. I love that. The greatness and the entertainment factor isn't just in the fights themselves, right? And is it a male female thing? It's just like there's great commentators everywhere. Michael Chavello over in One. There's so many great things. PFL has one of the most underrated commentary teams, along with Bellator, past, present. Some of the greatest teams ever that have permeated themselves into, in the instance of Sean Wheelock, BKFC or Bare Knuckle Fighting Championship, and Jimmy Smith is over on Monday Night Raw, WWE Monday Night Raw. So again, the tentacles of MMA, they reign supreme. And shout out to both Brock Lesnar and Bobby Lashley, both MMA veterans themselves. Brock Lesnar, a former UFC heavyweight champ, a hell of a, and kudos to the WWE for doing the promos in the lead up to that. That sold me. I haven't watched in a while. I've watched wrestling. I just haven't watched WWE, or I haven't watched sports entertainment in quite a while. I love the build up to it. It was marred by a non-MMA guy basically sullying the waters, which was a great competitive match with two world-class wrestlers. So just shout out to them. Shout out to everyone, and then shout out to you guys for joining us here at According to Woods. We will be back this Thursday because we have another UFC on the horizon. The first UFC fight night, really, of 2022, and that's headlined by Jack the Joker Hermanson and Sean Tarzan Strickland. Yeah. Holy fuck! Somebody's gonna get their fucking head caved in. Yeah. So you're going to come back with us at 11 p.m. Pacific Standard Time on this Thursday, where we're going to break this whole card down for you. There's a lot of good ones on here. I'm not going to pick a favorite and what have you, but this, assuming nothing falls out or miss weights or somebody gets concussed or what have you, this is a 13 fight card. Again, the first fight night on of the UFC for 2022. So it's going to be amazing. So we will see you guys here on Thursday night at 11 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. But before we go, Voodoo, can they find you on the socials?
Oh, that's quite easy. Type in Voodoo Maximus and you'll watch me pop up on YouTube, on Instagram, on Facebook page, on Twitter, and on Snapchat. Like, share, and subscribe on all platforms. Let's go.
Absolutely. And I'm According to Woods on all social media deals, Facebook, Twitter, Twitch, as well as YouTube is where you can find the Principal Podcast. On Instagram, Dumb Shit Memes. And it's been a week, but rest in peace, Eric Castro, one of my childhood friends. One of the reasons why I was able to survive Inglewood, I kind of feel like a fraud. And people are like, "Oh, Woods is from Inglewood," because that is a guy who was Inglewood through and through, lived there until the day he died, and everything that you want to say about like, oh, single mothers raising 3 kids. Mrs. Castro, she ended up having a house, still maintains a house in Inglewood, raised 3 kids, Eric being the oldest of the 3. And unfortunately, he left this world literally a week ago today. This is rough, but again, I feel like a fraud because that is Inglewood guy through and through, worked at Sentinella Hospital, and is one of the reasons why I'm still here. Kind of stuck his neck out for me when I first came to Inglewood, Crozier Middle School, and showed me which places to hang versus not to hang and places not to get shot. So rest in peace, Eric Castro. There is a GoFundMe on my link tree in the bio if you can donate. But again, rest in peace, Eric Castro. According to Woods, Voodoo Maximus coming at you live, and we will see you Thursday night with more Voodoo in the Wood.